Bad Mondays. By Handyman. Interlude. Diplomatic affairs. She let out a satisfied sigh as she opened her eyes, unwilling to move from the luxurious comfort of her bed. Alas, duty called. Shifting, she fumbled with the covers, tsking as they got caught up in her wings which refused to stay nice and clamped to her sides when she slept. She groaned and got up at long last. Her bed was at floor level, but that did not say much as it was still on a raised dais in her room. The moonlight peeked in through the closed windows as she made her way to the ensuite bathroom for her morning ablutions. Once suitably cleaned and that damnable mane brushed, she made her way to the window. Pulling the curtains open, she raised a hoof to her muzzle and let out a stifled yawn. She was looking forward to today. Her horn lit brightly as the all-too-familiar warmth flooded her veins and the rush of power flowed from her. The sun crested the horizon and shone gloriously through the light morning drizzle. The scheduled rainbows had been deployed, creating a magnificent view of Equestria from her room. Her smile faltered however. She had been worried about Luna for some time now. At first she feared her sister had slipped back into melancholy once more. Celestia had made the mistake of letting sleeping ponies lie before, and she swore to never do so again. When she had pressed her sister, she had learned the cause of her unease, a strange occurrence near a harbour town in the west. Luna was quite unnerved. She had only become aware of it because of a subtle wave of energy that had washed over her, and even then she had only noticed it because she had been in a magical trance, extending her senses. Of course, Luna had taken it upon herself to investigate the town herself, discovering that the ponies there had recently had several citizens rescued from brigands who had taken over the local mine. She had discovered nothing in their dreams indicating any dark force, so she had investigated the mine itself, eventually finding a strange corridor leading to a semi-spherical room carved from the rock, with the floor filled with precious gems and water, mostly notably a plinth of blue marble where once sat an object of power. There had been nothing else there, no symbols, no other rooms, nothing besides a lonely, soaking wet torch. Celestia had approved of her sister's diligence and had not interfered with it from that point on. The guards she had sent to investigate the town uncovered that adventurers had been hired to deal with the brigands, a pack of dogs Celestia now recalled. What they uncovered was of interest. The adventurers were a griffin and a strange creature called a human, like a furless minotaur but whose legs and head were different, along with small ears, small eyes and nose. The closest comparison to its legs were those of a young dragon's, but they easily made up half of its height. The only fur it possessed was a patch on its head, like a mane, and facial hair. Honestly, it sounded quite ugly, she reasoned, but she had never voiced the opinion. The medical reports weren't much help as they had been quite basic. However, that was only the beginning of the trouble the human had caused the royal pair. Chronologically, the next thing the human had done was try to transport contraband medicine through Thornwood and assaulted several rangers performing a sting operation before he had disappeared. After that, the two lunar guards Luna had charged with the investigation had partaken of some of its blood the Spur Bay physicians had taken and had a unique reaction. Celestia frowned at the thought. She approved of the severity of her sister's condemnation of her guards' actions but had to stop her from throwing them in the dungeons. Whatever this creature was, this handy, he had a potential to be a threat. Luna had scoured the dreamscape of Equestria to see if she could pinpoint the creature in his sleep but could find no trace of it. The implications of that were unsettling. Either this creature possessed tremendous magical ability, or never rested. She suppressed a shiver as she finished donning her regalia and made her way to the dining room for breakfast. The change of the guard was still underway as she left her room. Luna's night guard were leaving their positions, unicorns magically altering the banners and tapestries, transforming Luna's achievements and adventures with her own. Her dawn guards saluted as she passed, and she smiled at the familiarity. Her thoughts were still worried and dark, however. After the incident with the night ponies, Luna had requested pairing off patrols with the day guard to cover more ground and to check on any potential threats and countermeasures the human had against the night guard, a wise precaution considering the pony's unique predilections and the human's weapons-grade blood. While they had searched the areas around Thornwood for the human, Griffin, and the one pony accomplice that had been with them when they disappeared, she had been quite surprised to learn that a similar-sounding bipedal creature had been apparently traveling the train from the Badlands and was terrifying innocent ponies. Luna had dispatched a pair of guards known for their synergy and efficiency in dealing with threats. What they had uncovered was interesting to say the least. This handy was an adventurer and mercenary by trade, spoke in a strange, deep, quick accent but had an upper-class air to his words, and hailed from a militia. Celestia knew of no such country in the world but did not rule out the possibility that it was just another name he knew an existing country by. However, the guards had been thwarted. The human had been in the employ of a Griffin Count, a chancellor of a king's court no less, and couldn't be touched. How he got from the Thornwoods to the Badlands and back in less than 3 weeks was something of a mystery, and she did not much care for it. It only got worse, however, as the human had foreign currency on his person. And it wasn't Griffin gold. No, it was changeling, ancient changeling judging by the markings, and it was pure gold of a high carat. Equestrian bits were only partially gold nowadays, so one such coin was worth much more than most ponies made in 2 weeks' labor. For the human to just casually drop a coin such as that and not even stop to care meant he had more where that came from. Which could only mean the absolute worst. Luna was hesitant when the guards had come back with the news after verifying the coin. Celestia, however, was not. She herself had given the go-ahead to send guards to apprehend the human before he could commit whatever foul deeds that Queen had hired him to perform. She could handle the fallout from a stuck-up foreign count throwing a fit. Chrysalis had to be stopped from whatever she was up to. They had lost too much time already, and if the train the Count had almost certainly boarded, given the last stop he made its way across the border, she couldn't follow. It was, however, Luna's quest, so she had allowed her sister's guards to take the mission. A dozen squadrons had set out from Canterlot as Celestia recalled the day guard to fill the ranks. Anti-changeling protection had been reinforced, and no pony had gotten out from regular scanning. They were taking no chances. That said, however, the reinforcements were made as unobtrusive as possible, for she did not want to create a panic in Canterlot after all. Still, it had been a couple of days now since they had set out. They should be arriving back today. She entered the dining room, and the maids bowed as she took her spot along the short table. The long table was immaculately prepared as always, but it was impractical and impersonal to eat there daily. It was more for formal functions. She laid into her breakfast as a unicorn butler magically refilled her coffee cup at the exact amount she preferred. "Thank you, punctual," she said. "Of course, Mum." The butler shuffled his mustache as he took a step back. The doors opened, and Celestia smiled at her sister. "Good morning, Luna." She beamed. Luna gave her a light smile and stifled a yawn. She was quite exhausted and looked forward to a good day's sleep. "Morning, sister dearest." She sat at her seat across from the solar diarch and ate a heartier meal. This was her supper time after all. She requested tea rather than coffee. "What is in store for day court, Tia?" she asked, idle chit-chat to pass the time as she chewed. Celestia smiled as she wiped her mouth. "Nothing, thankfully. The nobles are mostly at their country estates, the economy is good, no major laws to assent to. Indeed, I dare say I shall very much enjoy today, for there is nothing for us to worry about it seems." Her smile shrunk slightly. "With one exception of course." Luna nodded. "I wonder what nefarious plot he's up to," she mused. "We shall soon find out, for he can't possib. I need to deliver my report now." The two sisters turned to one of the side doors of the dining room. It opened and a small collection of Luna's night guard trotted in, flanked by a pair of day guards. Luna's gaze hardened. They looked worse for wear, several of them were bruised, their fur and armor was dirty, dinged, and dented. She recognized them. What is the meaning of this? Luna demanded, standing up from her seat, her anger a mask for her concern. These were the sergeants and captain she had sent out. They did not look happy to see her. The captain walked up and bowed low before her. "Princess," she began, not daring to look up. Her subordinates performed likewise. With a wave of Celestia's hoof, the day guard backed out of the room along with the servants. She had a feeling this was not going to be good. "We failed in apprehending the human," the pony said weakly. Luna narrowed her eyes. "How?" she asked. "And what happened to thee? I see you have been put through quite the struggle." The captain lowered her head further, her face now level with the floor. Luna's heart softened, now worried more than angry. "There are worse injuries." Luna's eyes widened. "Quick, regale me, what is thy report?" she demanded. The captain recounted the tale in short. They had found the human on the train with the griffins. Her squadrons had assaulted the passenger cars of the train in order to maximize the possibility of finding and extracting the human with minimal consternation to the griffins. Indeed, one of her guards, Stellar Eclipse, had actually defeated the human in combat while the rest of the guards had been busy occupying the griffins in order to isolate him. Luna smiled until she heard about how the human had knocked out Eclipse's partner. Luna's frown deepened as she was informed it had actually gotten worse from there. Just as they had victory in their grasp, they were attacked by another force. Celestia's eyebrows raised as she was informed of the attack of spectral ponies that had attacked both griffins and guards indiscriminately. The guards had had a serious threat to their safety and the viability of the mission. As such, Eclipse had had to restrain the human in order to follow orders and help her comrades. Luna gasped in shock when she was informed of Eclipse's indiscretion. Her captain vouched on her behalf, seeking leniency for her actions as she had been under pressure to fulfill orders without endangering the mission by allowing the target the chance to escape. Luna held her tongue for now, trying to see the captain's reasoning and failing. Eclipse had used the boost she got to assist her fellow ponies in battle, which was admirable but still immoral. What happened next alarmed her, however. The human had recovered from the blood drain with surprising speed and, worst of all, he had bitten into the neck of a guard sergeant and drained his blood, having a similar effect on the human that his blood had on them. Luna's wings flared in horror. Celestia spat up her coffee back into her cup and quickly dabbed her mouth, hoping fervently no pony saw that. The human had some strange magic. Whenever the moonlight hit his armor, he had sparkled like 1,000 stars, blinding any pony who looked at him. Luna was incensed at this, scoffing. How dare he use her moon against her servants? His enhanced speed and strength had decimated the ponies, and her subordinate, Midnight Blossom, had recommended a tactical retreat as she engaged the human before he drained another pony. Luna shook with anger but kept her peace. Celestia had now gotten up and walked over to stand beside her sister. The human had been a blur of violence and had driven the ponies back to the second carriage and began driving them out of that one too before Eclipse engaged the human and fought him on the outside of the train. That was where the battle began to lose cohesion. The griffins had converged on the second car, and the ponies had begun to lose badly. Eclipse had been defeated and fell back into the car, her fur singed and barely breathing, and had been forced to retreat. What they had seen on the roof of the train concerned both princesses greatly. There had been a unicorn wielding tremendous magical power. No one in her company had recognized the mare, but she had summoned a huge elemental that the human had engaged in battle. The creature had summoned bolts of lightning. The captain speculated that was what had incapacitated the private. The human's armor had withstood the creature's magic as he destroyed it before collapsing himself. He had captured the unicorn, but the pony had escaped his grasp as he collapsed back into the train. The princesses were silent, digesting the implications of what they had been told. "Sister." Luna broke the silence. Celestia looked at her. "What do we do?" she asked. The human was now over the border and out of their reach. That's not all, your highnesses." The captain stood up and motioned to a subordinate, who brought a tattered black cloak with a golden clasp. It depicted a unicorn horn over a clover, the word Astucier engraved on its surface. Celestia floated it over to her as she took a look at it. It was worn by the unicorn who had summoned the elemental. Celestia considered the captain's words. Astucier, a Prance word. What could it be referring to? Thank you for your brave service, my little ponies, Celestia said, smiling warmly at the guards, who were still bowing. Luna echoed the sentiments, stating she would consider Eclipse's fate in light of the circumstances as she dismissed the ponies with orders to have the wounded guards specially treated. She turned to her sister. That monster! She stamped her hoof. The room shook. Celestia looked at her sister. Be calm, sister, we do our subjects no good by losing our tempers. We have underestimated this human, and we still don't know anything about him. The rumors we have gathered are wild and varied and cannot be relied upon. She summoned a scroll and ink from a drawer at the head of the long table, walking over to its edge as she put quill to paper. Then what? We must do something, sister, we can't afford to let that human go loose. He assaulted our guards. Celestia let Luna rant. She'd calm down in a bit and consider the situation in more detail. She was jealously protective of her night guard after all. And what are you writing? Sending a message to Twilight, Celestia responded. We can no longer afford to fight in ignorance. I am requesting she gather as much information on this human as she can. She decided to play up the mysterious aspect of the creature, knowing Twilight's curiosity would do the rest. It certainly had in the past. And there's still the inevitable backlash from the Griffins over this. She did not relish the thought. She could have handled it if the operation had been successful, but it was botched. Sighing, she floated her coffee over her as she took a sip. There was a knock at the door. Punctual entered as Luna gave the permission. He was holding a plate with several letters aloft. Urgent missive, Mum, he said, placing the tray on the table, bowing and retreating. Well, Celestia thought, that was fast. Alexander is wasting no time in seeking answers, it seems. She resigned herself to her fate, sitting at the head of the long table. Luna stood at her side as she broke the seal of the first scroll and read it. Sure enough, High King Ironclaw, in his usual politesse and matter-of-fact quill ponyship, requested an explanation of an equestrian assault and endangerment of the trade train and a large number of Griffin subjects, including a count and a prince. Celestia blinked. Prince? Luna asked, head tilted. What prince? Celestia took a nervous sip of her coffee. No Pone had said anything about a prince. She opened the second scroll. To their highnesses, Princesses Celestia and Luna. Kindly explain why you assaulted my son, Prince Johann, and my own Chancellor, Count Heinrich of Münster, with the company of your own royal guards? I expect a suitable explanation post-haste, if you would ever be so kind. Yours sincerely, King Gerhard. Celestia's cup shook as she levitated it to her lips, her mouth suddenly dry. Prince? We attacked a prince? Sister, we can't. The Griffins will never accept that we thought he was a changeling agent. Luna said, hopping on the spot. Celestia's mind raced. She could fix this, no problem. As long as no pony else found out about these missives, she could contain this, explain things to the two kings, smooth it all over. It was all going to be all right. She opened the third scroll. Dear Princesses Celestia and Luna. Ha 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 ha. I know I got rid of him so he'd be your problem, but this is just priceless. Really, it's just too much. With love, Queen Chrysalis. That nag managed to get a letter to Canterlot. Celestia shook with something between fear, fury, and confusion. She put a hoof to her head as she handed the letter to Luna, who let out a rather large gasp of shock. The implications of Chrysalis' letter clashed with everything she thought she knew about the human. She sighed long and hard and pulled out the drawer of her long table. The other drawer, with her special friend. Celestia uncapped the bottle of whiskey and poured some into her coffee. Dash equals dash. Do v hey a v a on akurd. A Yais. He clicked his beak. It was so tempting, so very tempting. He looked back at the mirror. We do, he said at last. You are sure this will make me immortal? Yais. Desh Cerberi. We eth hi and mmmmyyyyyy puhuovwir. And that's all I have to do, he asked, tapping his beak. Gaeiv2 yes. I gaina v2 yiu. Genie yes. The griffin smiled in the dark of his room.